From singing songs during family talent nights as a young boy in Yukon, Oklahoma, to selling out stadiums around the world, Garth Brooks has spent a lifetime establishing himself as an icon in the world of country music. He's the only artist in history with 9 albums that have achieved diamond status. He's won Grammys, CMAs, ACMs. He's a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, was inducted into the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum, and in 2020 was the recipient of the Library of Congress Gershwin Prize for Popular Song. In 2010, Garth bought famed recording studio Jack's Tracks from his producer, Alan Reynolds. He later changed the name to Allentown, and that's where Garth recorded every single album except for the Chris Gaines project. It's also where Garth and I sat down to talk about the studio, its history on Music Row, and his own storied career. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Bill Cody Presents Grand Ole Opry star Garth Brooks. Welcome to Bill Cody Presents Garth Brooks, and Garth Brooks in turn presents Allentown.
I like it.
Huh? What do you think?
Oh man, this is where we're sitting right now is a harbor. It's everything that's against the commercialism of music and everything about the creating, songwriting, and good analog recording and digital recording. This place, when you close that door behind you, all the bad stuff disappears. Perfect for creating.
Let's talk about the man for whom you named it when you bought it, and we'll do the timeline and bring us up to the present. So, Alan Reynolds is born in North Little Rock, Arkansas, moves to Memphis. Dickie Lee is a part of his life. And all these names that I mentioned become Songwriter Hall of Famers.
Sure.
Bob McDill, Paul Kraft.
Cowboy Jack Clement.
He and Cowboy Jack meet.
Right.
And that's really the moment when something happened that over decades would bring them to this spot.
Yeah. Probably through Beaumont as well, taking a turn through
He
there.
and Dickie had their first studio in Beaumont, didn't they?
Yeah. So those guys, they make a pilgrimage here. Sweet guy, I come to town to meet Bob Doyle immediately. Bob Doyle, I also meet Brian Kennedy, and his dad's Jerry Kennedy,
Yeah.
famous producer. So I'm hanging out with Jerry Kennedy, and we get the word that we're going to get signed by Capitol Records. And Jerry Kennedy immediately goes, I'm out. Me and those guys over there, we have a little rub going. He says, but they're going to give you a list of probably 10 guys. Bring it to me.
Now, is he still at Mercury at this time?
Yes, he is. So he's got Reba. Reba had just left for MCA at that point.
And I think Kathy Mattea took her place, she told us when we sat down with her.
Exactly. So all the circles, because this is Kathy's home too, so it's all going to come back full circle. And so they circled 4 or 5 names. One of them was Alan Reynolds. So here I come to what was then called Jack's Tracks. And story that I have heard is somewhere in the early 70s, Cowboy Jack had been very involved in Sound Emporium down there, Studio A and B, but it got so busy he couldn't even get in his own studio. So he asked Alan Reynolds to find him a second one. This used to be the John F. Kennedy Museum.
Couldn't believe it when you
Isn't
told
that
me.
crazy? So the story goes, and if I've got my history wrong, forgive me, and the guy that owned this building also owned the book depository in Dallas. So that was the two connections.
Oh, wow.
But why they liked it as a studio was it was totally blacked in because it was a museum, because sunlight, I guess. So all the windows are blacked in, and Big Pal, that's Alan Reynolds, came over here, found it for Cowboy. And then I heard about somewhere in the 70s, Alan Reynolds bought it from Cowboy.
For $65,000 is what I read.
And that's
Did you hear
Jack's
that
Tracks.
number?
No, I
that was Jack's
haven't heard
Tracks,
it.
yeah.
That's that's a lot of money anyway. But in the 70s,
So 71 was the beginning of Jack's Tracks, as I understand it,
was
with
it?
AMI, the label that Jack had going.
Yes.
And then by 75, Alan owns it until 2010. And again, there are some more remarkable things related to Garth Brooks that come after that. And now it got the name Allentown.
I walk into Jack's Tracks, right? Now, this is where Don Williams has done his records. Alan Reynolds producing with an engineer by the name of Garth Fundus, who would go on to produce such new acts as Trisha Yearwood, Keith Whitley, right? And it's crazy how the family tree kind of grows. And Kathy Mattea was the act when I got here that Alan Reynolds would sit here and tell you he's the reason why he still produced was her. He was done pretty much, this place was pretty much boarded up when she knocked on the door. And Alan fell in love with her, and they fell in love with each other and made great records.
You know, what's crazy is she was a block away writing and living at
Yeah.
Rensong in the neighborhood that we know, and I think people who've never been here romance about when it comes to Music Row, is what we're both talking about here.
Sure, you were all within walking distance of every creator there was. The greatest writers were all down here on Music Row. This is where they cut the records. This is where they did everything, and it was kind of like its own kind of town or place. And, you know, God bless the boys who make the noise on 16th Avenue. It's 16th goes one way, 17th goes the other. And these two blocks where everybody was. It made it very friendly, but at the same time, no matter how much you love music or love your albums, know that creation, marketing, they cannot live. They're oil and water. They cannot live. You need them both. You need the record label guys. You need the creators. And so when everybody was on the same Music Row together, you're looking for a place where you're safe to create without any of the dangers of the marketing or the business of it. Mm-hmm. This was the place for many people, Kathy Mattea being one. For me, this was a harbor, a home that I could not live here enough. I mean, you're sitting in the room where Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue, and that piano riff. You're sitting in the room where that guitar riff off Friends in Low Places. You're sitting right here in the room where we crammed 50 people in that little room to sing background for Friends in Low Places. It's always been a wonderfully sweet spot for, I don't want to say organic, but nothing false went on here. And if there's ever been anything that even approached these doors that was the least bit false, it'd be Garth Brooks. Because Alan Reynolds, pure as it could be, Kathy Mattea, all these guys, Crystal.
Don Williams.
Don Williams. They talk about just truth, man. That's
and again, all these names most of them are Hall of Famers now.
Yeah.
And weren't in the Hall of Fame then, during the time period that you're talking about.
And the ones that aren't Hall of Famers will be.
Yes, they will.
It's hands down.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. He had a writer come in that needed to borrow some money. And I got, hey, Merlin, I said, I make that a week at home playing bars and clubs. And he said, I suggest you go back home, man. Just like that.
You had come to town, left.
Right.
And within 24 hours. Is that story right?
Yeah, came here in something like 84, 85. They had a big send-off for me at home. Come here about 24 hours is all I lasted because I realized, oh my God, this is about business. This is about suit and ties, which never was ever in anything back home.
Where did you stay?
I stayed at the Holiday Inn overlooking Vanderbilt Stadium there. Rained the whole time is another thing. Met with a guy named Merlin Littlefield at ASCAP. Right?
Yeah.
And he had a writer come in that needed to borrow some money. And I get to hear, I'm sitting in the office when the guy comes in, and they're talking about money, and the amount he was talking about wasn't that much, but Merlin made it sound like it was a lot of money. And I go, hey, Merlin, I said, dude, I make that, I make that a week at home playing bars and clubs. And he said, I suggest you go back home, man. Just like that. I hated him for it and loved him for it because it's the best thing anybody could have said to me. So went back home, got the band together, came back knowing it was about business and balancing that creative and that business thing. Got here and was lucky enough to meet Stephanie Brown the first day I was here. She introduced me 3 days later to Bob Doyle. And Bob Doyle would become, and still is, manager, publisher, everything. So I've kind of been babied and spoiled by Bob Doyle for as long as I've been here. And then one of the great introductions was Alan Reynolds, and that's what got me here to Allentown.
Is it true that you got turned down and then signed to Capitol in the same day?
Yeah, there was 7 major labels at the time, and all 7 had passed. And I was ready to go back home. And Bob said, you still have that writer showcase at the Bluebird here in 2 nights. I said, you really want to do it? He says, you have to.
Who was on the bill with you, or were you by yourself?
No, it was like 6 or 7 of us.
Okay.
So there's a list of us there. Ralph Murphy's one of them. Ralph Murphy's supposed to go on second. And if you know Ralph was always late anywhere he went. I'm sitting there in the audience, and the guy goes, hey, Ralph's supposed to go, and he's not here. Will you go in his place? I said, you bet. Get in, get out, right? And there it was. The guys from Capitol Records. Lynn Schultz was in the audience. Now, Lynn had just passed on me. came up to Bob Dole and after the performance and say, hey, where did we leave this? And I'll love Bob Dole forever because I would have said, you passed on him, right? Because we had a really good night that night. And Bob was sweet enough to go, you said you'd get back with us. And Lyd said, bring him in tomorrow. And the next day we walked out with a frickin' record deal from the coolest label on the planet. I mean, this is the home of Buck, Haggard, the Beatles. I mean...
And your mom.
Pretty good. You
Miss Colleen.
talk about things going around. She recorded in Studio B out at Capitol Records out in... It was really, really good. It felt really good. Mom was excited about it. Mom got the harder side of the business, so she's always worried about her baby boy. Yeah. Dad didn't think it was working for a living, so he's always expecting.
Was he an oil man? Was that his? Yeah.
He was a draftsman for an oil company. Worked for him for, I don't know, 37, 40 years. And that was it, man. My dad, you'd wake up every morning, Dad was already gone. By the time he'd get home at 5, he didn't have 3 seconds to himself, and we're all, hey, let's go play catch or whatever. He did that every day of his life. So when it came to my crossroads of my kids, it was pretty easy to make that choice simply because I had the example living with me. It was Dad on how to handle kids.
Did he have a talent night every week or something that you guys were required to participate in?
Dad was a great player, and with Mom being a singer.
Yeah.
So Dad played dobro, played acoustic guitar, and then, of course, all the brothers did something. And then, of course, the most talented one was Betsy, blues guitar, singer, songwriter. So it was a talent night in our house. 6 kids, Mom and Dad. You were lucky if you came in 8. It was a good night.
And where did the name Troil, the family name, which was his name, right?
Yeah, Dad was Troil. His dad was Troil Raymond Sr., Troil Raymond Jr. Dad didn't want me to be a third, so I got Garth. So it's like, here's a cruel irony. Save your kid from being named Troil, give him the name Garth. Oh, thanks a lot. There's 2 great picks right there, right? I always tell people, please do not name your kid Troil or Garth.
And you get to town, and one of the first guys you meet is Garth Fundus.
Garth Fundus. It's like, this can't be. And there's probably great Garths, but there's not a better one than Garth Fundus.
The backstory of getting here also includes retail for you as a job to support yourself. How long does that go on? When you come back the second time,
yeah, we hit here in 86.
This label deal that you just described.
We get here in 86 and we immediately go to work because you got to get an income coming in. So I worked at a boot place. When I met Bob, he signed me as a writer. So I had that job, and then I cleaned churches during the weekdays. So
you were a janitor.
You betcha.
Worked for Chris Christopherson, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Chris worked in the record layer, in the studio, though. Kind of worked a little better for him. So the thing is just whatever it takes, right? Because you got to get that income coming in, and the whole band's here, like 8 of us in one house with a baby and dogs and everything. And so you just get started. But look what you're doing. You're trading it for the dream, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't matter, but I worked at that boot place for a long time. Started in 86, 89, the first single, Much Too Young, came out. I was still working there. I'll never forget the day when I was putting boots on and Much Too Young came on the radio. And I went, yeah, that's me. And this guy goes, yeah, sure it is. Feels a little tight in the right when there.
Was that the first time you'd heard it on the radio?
No. First time was in the truck right out here at the 65-40 split.
But that was happenstance. You didn't know it was coming on. You just heard
heck no.
Oh, yeah.
No, you never thought it would come on, man. And you called every radio station that played it, and they were sweet. Most of them would, kind of rush you off the phone because they were busy.
Yeah.
But some of them would tell you, hey, man, I don't know who you are, but we all love Chris Ledoux up here. So we're spinning the record, which was fair. And then you start to know these guys one by one as the days turn into months and months turn into year. The tours, I always say, if you want life to fly by, put a tour in it. Because, man, then things just started going pretty quick. Alan hated the story. He said, love the feel. Give me a better story. Walking up those stairs, I said, well, there was this summer in the wheat fields of Oklahoma.
We're challenging the standard of what comes standard. With the next generation GMC Terrain Elevation. What we choose to challenge We challenge completely.
Current eligible lessees can get this low mileage lease on this 2025 Terrain Elevation for around $279 per month. We are professional grade.
I like a shot of whiskey, and so would my companion. If it ain't too much trouble. Howdy, boy, you got a good game going there?
Who the hell's that?
You got mud in your ears or what?
Rye, or what'll it be, old timer?
Rye will do, provided it gets here quick.
Darn cowboys ought to broom yourselves off before you walk in here. Get all the sand we need without the customers bringing it in. That'll be $1.
Now, besides the whiskey, I think we'll require a little respect. Now, I'm Captain Augustus McCrae. This is Captain Woodrow F. Call. Now, if you care to turn around, you can see how we looked when we was younger, and the people around here wanted to make us senators. Now, the thing we didn't put up with then was dawdling service. And as you can see, we still don't put up with it.
Watch it.
Fresh glass, please.
So, Alan Reynolds, does he prepare you for what success in this business would bring, how it would change your life? You said he was like a father figure. Did you have those father and son talks?
First song, Not Counting You. Not Counting You, he stops the song, pulls me out, because I've got this Gary Morris, George Strait voice kind of going, right? And he goes, what is this? And I said, well, I'm thinking sprucing it up. He goes, there's already one George Strait. Nobody's going to do him better than George. He says, just be true to yourself. People will listen to what you say if you just be yourself. And that way you don't have anything to remember, which was great. Nice. And went back in there and said, it's just crazy, but here we go. When loving turns to parting. And that doesn't sound exciting to me, right? And then, bam, he had that effect on everybody that he worked with.
Yeah, he turned that whole swing feel that thing had. It was so different from what radio was doing at that time. Yeah. Strait was the only other guy I'd known that had success with that kind of, like Ace in the Hole, stuff like that.
The crazy thing was Garth swing is not Texas swing or Oklahoma swing. It's because it's the product of the guys playing it.
It's like shuffle swing, isn't it?
You got two guys from Muscle Shoals in here, right? Drums and bass, fiddle player and steel player, both from Virginia, right? And you got a keyboard player from Memphis that's got this kind of thing going through it. So Ray Benson sits in here and goes, that's not Texas swing, right? And I'm in here going, well, it's not Oklahoma swing. But whatever it is, freaking swing it, right? So these guys played that, and you got to hear it in things like Deep Water, the tribute to Bob Wills. You got to hear it in a thing called Not Counting You, but you also got to hear it in things like Mr. Right or Mr. Right Now. Those things were fun. Something with a ring to it, the Mark Colley song. These guys could swing. They had their own kind of swing, but man, they could swing.
When you got to tell the story about Allen and label guys in this building in which we said Allentown. You got to tell that story. That's beautiful.
It was a joke that I thought it was a joke. Was the label guys at the thing say, "Hey, can you get us in over at the studio at Jack's Tracks?" Like, what do you mean? You're my bosses and kind of thing. And but I never followed up much on it. But Allen, I kept noticing that every time you'd cut a new record, so No Fences. And No Fences is Jimmy Bowen, right? And so no label. I thought maybe they're not interested. I don't know. Come to find out, Allen didn't let any label people in here at all. None. He said, this house are for singers, songwriters, creators, players. They're not for record label. Said, if they really want to hear the music, I'll be happy to pay for whatever expenses to set it up somewhere. Go play it for them and talk to them about it. And that's what he did. So we never saw a record label guy in here at all, not till after Alan was gone. Then I let label guys in here because, hopefully you run your ship so you're with these record guys when they come in here, whatever. But Alan just wasn't going to have anything to do with it. But that was also when the publishing house was here as well. He had all those publishers in here. All those writers in here. Mm-hmm. This guy's a writer's dream. He's a musician's friend. He's a player's friend. Everybody wanted to play for him. Everybody wanted to write for him. And I could see why, because he was very loving. Even his criticisms were wonderful pieces of advice that would make your song better. There's the stairwell right behind me where me and Pat Alger walked up with our tail between our legs after a song called That Summer that started about this thing on the beach, this party where this guy meets this girl that's coming in. The dude that she came with doesn't even look like her, right? Like, what is she doing? So they slip off together. Alan hated the story. He said, love the feel. Give me a better story. And walking up those stairs, I said, well, there was this summer in the wheat fields of Oklahoma, and that's where it started. But that's because Alan Reynolds was not going to settle for the story that was originally in That Summer. So many things that I owe that guy.
Yeah. What was the biggest disagreement you would have had looking back?
Alan would give you a song, and you'd give Alan a song. So I didn't think I did worth a damn on Cowboy Jack's I Know One, Jim Reeves song, right? But Alan just loved the performance on there. Okay, all right. And then Ain't Going Down, there's a part on there that I just know it. That's not right. He goes, I believe it. It feels so good. And Alan was, he was great at this. What happens when you cut a record with 5 guys and then you have what they call a scratch vocal? All you're doing is trying to lead these guys through the song. Well, sometimes those scratch vocals, you weren't trying at all, and Alan loved them. And then what he would do is he'd let you go in and sing them. And then after 2 or 3 passes, he'd punch the button and says, trying to replicate what you already have, aren't you? It hit you like a ton of bricks. Yeah, I'm trying to get back that scratch vocal. We already have it, right? So
how is it he hears that and you don't, right? And you're the one singing it.
It's because I can't see past my own ego. Right? Alan had good ego, but Alan could separate himself from his ego. So any times that we disagreed on anything, Alan had a sweet way of finding a way to give me what I wanted in a way that still kind of stayed true to what his job as a producer was.
How many scratch vocals became records?
I'd say 50% of them.
Really?
Crazy.
How many one takes?
Yeah, probably 50% of them, because you're right there in it.
Goodness,
there's a moment that happens. Alan's thing was this: we're not creating, we're capturing. We've got the greatest players on the planet who have given up their lives to move to this place. Why am I trying to tell them what to play? Right?
Yeah.
Capture it. So when I think it's Pig, plays da-dum-da-dum-dum, right? Da-dum-da-dum. Or when Bobby Wood is sitting at the piano, and the whole intro for the dance is blank, and Bobby goes, let me try this. First take, there it is. Mm-hmm. Alan knows if his ego goes, well, I'd like to do this 2 or 3 more times because it's fun. You've got it. Now, love it, And he was beautiful at that. My jaw goes to the floor. That crowd goes up in the ceiling. In the first 30 seconds, they were louder than they were for us all night. I'm sitting here, I'm wearing out notebooks and pencils right now, just watching this cat.
Circle also brings you Westerns, the best movies of the Wild West.
You did a good job, Doc.
Hollywood's best in their iconic roles as gamblers, sheriffs, and hustlers.
You start mixing spades with clubs in this game, you can get hurt.
The West was filled with riding into sunsets to settling affairs the cowboy way.
I am the law around here.
Mosey on up to Westerns on Circle Country.
Get on, back to the wagon. I'll tend to you later. Now for this young whippersnapper.
Now, no harm has been done. And young Ben here is one of the nicest boys in the territory, so just put down that shotgun and let's forget it.
I'll teach him to fool with Mike.
Now, we'll all calm down.
Boss, he's just a little excited.
I know. I'm gonna use good judgment. I haven't lost my temper in 40 years. But Pilgrim, you caused a lot of trouble this morning. Might have got somebody killed. And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. The hell I won't. Mechanic Rider!
Oh, Markland! Hey, Buster! Remember me? Hello, sir. Nice party. Do you think we oughta? I ought to what?
Yeah, very funny.
I heard you recently on your Sirius XM satellite channel. You were playing a live version of Much Too Young, and it was in Denver.
Yes.
And so you got a job in Denver tomorrow night, and you get to Chrysler. The place is losing its mind. And I thought, as I drove and listened to you, I thought, wonder where the first meeting of Garth Brooks and Chris Ledoux took place. And Chris had no idea who you were when you put his name in that song, did he?
No, not at all. Cocky Bull, Victorville, California. So we just put on sale Salt Lake. So we for the stadium tour here, and they were very sweet to show up for it. But why Salt Lake is so important, the story is the Cocky Bull was in Victorville, California, and we all got together, the band and everything, and said, okay, no wrestling tonight. We're going to play like we're playing at the Opry, cowboy up, straight up, because it's Chris Ledoux, right? Let's go out there, and man, we played it, and those people reacted amazing, and to the point where I'm going, I feel kind of bad for Chris, you know.
Oh, no.
We're getting changed down. There's a little room off to the side of the stage, and all of a sudden the B3 starts to feedback. It's like, well, somebody needs to get that, you know. And it's getting louder. It's like, guys, come on. Then that crowd starts to come up, and you're thinking, and now we're fighting each other to get to the door, just in time to see this guy come over the drum kit. And when he lands on that stage, they hit that downbeat. My jaw goes to the floor. That crowd goes up in the ceiling. In the first 30 seconds, they were louder than they were for us all night and never came down. I'm sitting there, I'm wearing out notebooks and pencils right now, just watching this cat. So I got to shake his hand afterward, and I said, I just want to tell you, we played it straight up tonight in honor of you. I said, I hear we're doing a show in Salt Lake. No holds barred. I said, it's on. I loved it because he looked at me with that smile, the sweetest, and just said, bring it. I'll see you there. And man, it began this friendship that was just fun to be around Chris. That feeling was what the studio records were without. Alan had this philosophy. Cut the studio records for people to listen at home. Take it live. You can change it up a little bit for the live thing. But it was only going to be a matter of time before that live thing crept into the house here. And Alan, like he did everything, accepted it well and made sure that Alan's hands were on it to funnel it down to make great records, hopefully.
So take me back to meeting him the first time. We talked about Jerry Kennedy. He says, I'm out. And you meet Alan Reynolds. And what that meeting was like. And
upstairs. So Alan's the first guy that can see me of the 5 guys. I can't remember the other 4 names because the meeting up there, when I walked out, I told Bob Doyle, I said, no offense to the other 4, if that guy wants to work, I want to work with him. Sweetest man on the planet. Really good. When you're around him, you feel confident, you feel safe. Alan Reynolds, as you know, is one of the most humble people on the planet, but at the same time, make no freaking mistake, he's running the ship. You don't have to, you just getting pissed off about something that's going on in the industry, all of a sudden this guy will come out. It's like, holy cow, Alan, this, and so I love him. I love him for that. The beast that's within him, he's in charge of too. but he didn't have a problem letting him walk, you know.
How did he go about telling you he would work with you?
He told Bob Doyle. He said, I really like the guy. And he said, I really like his original stuff. He said, but I tell you what I'll do, and this way I'm not contracted with anybody. He said, we'll cut 3 sides, I'll pay for them. If the label likes it and we go forward, then they'll reimburse me. If not, it's on me. And that was, man, because, you know, there ain't no money here, you know, from a new guy moving to town, which was very sweet of him.
Yeah.
And the first song we cut was Not Counting You. Talk about odd for country radio, everything at that point. Good Thing Going was another one. And then a song called If Tomorrow Never Comes.
When you got your respective stars, you and Tricia in the Music City Walk of Fame, you asked him to induct you that day, which stands to reason.
Because I knew that whatever came out of his mouth was going to be eloquent and was going to be the truth. Alan doesn't know anything other than the truth. So same way, we were lucky enough to go in the Kennedy Center Honors, and the person I asked to write that was James Taylor. That's even hard to even say that, you know, because you know what you're going to get out of both of those guys are sincerity, rawness, not really caring if what they're saying is accepted or not. It's just who they are. And those are the kind of people, I'll never be, but I'd love to be. Said George Strait didn't cut it. Everybody laughs. I'm like, yeah. And he said, but here tonight to play it. As soon as he said it, I had no idea.
Circle Country also brings you Westerns.
They're both dead as doornails.
The classic movies of the Wild West. Hollywood's most iconic actors in their legendary roles as cowboys, gunfighters, and rustlers.
It's my money.
This untamed land was filled with all types of characters, good and bad.
Almost caught because you forgot.
Movies of the Wild West, a place where every sunrise brought the promise of the new frontier.
You've got to let them keep the big redwoods.
I came here to get the big ones.
You'll never get them. We could have cut enough timber to raise our filing fees, but we believed you, Mr. Burns. We trusted you because of him. But that's past, Mr. Fallon. We know you now. And with the help of the Lord, somehow we'll stop you.
So far, you've made a liar out of me. Hand back every one of them application blanks. There ain't going to be any filing of any kind here.
You win again, Lucky. Keller, go ahead with those applications.
I beat you half to death once. Now I'm going to finish the job.
Please don't try it, Yukon.
Hey.
Don't do it, Lucky. Keep out of there. Here's your boat fare. I hear there's still gold in Alaska.
I'm staying here.
Then you'll get hurt again. Got you right where you thought you had me.
When you were inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, James Taylor and Bob Seger, who was the other one?
And the king, George Strait.
George Strait sang in your honor?
I moved to this town with a song called I'm Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old for one artist, George Strait. Had a fiddle intro like Amarillo by Morning, talked about why would he not cut it? I didn't understand then if somebody's already cut something about that, they're looking for something different to cut. So when he, you know, when I don't know if he ever even heard it, but Kyle Young tells a story that Garth Brooks came down as a songwriter, and I'm like, oh, good, they've got this right, you know, because you don't know what's getting ready to happen. He said, and he brought a song called Much Too Young for his hero, George Strait. I said, killer. He said, George Strait didn't cut it. Everybody laughs. I'm like, eh. And he said, but here tonight to play it. As soon as he said it, I had no idea. Here comes Strait. Damn, I hate him because he looks the same.
He absolutely does.
Always looks exactly like it's the 80s, right? He never ages. And when he sang a worn out tape of Chris Ledoux, this happened, of course. And I was done. I told Miss Sherwood, I said, we can go home now. She goes, I think you're going to want to stay around. But it was a cool moment.
And what was your connection to get, now, of course, the artist, as you mentioned, they don't know, but you obviously had a connection with Bob Seger to a level that he would come and do that, and the same with James Taylor.
The Country Music Hall of Fame and the spouse does it.
Oh, no kidding.
Right. So when Reba went in, she was married to...
Narvel.
She was married to Narvel at the time, right? So Narvel contacted me, and then Narvel contacted Tricia to do some things. And so the spouse usually, or the Country Music Hall of Fame will reach out. So you don't have a clue what's getting ready to happen. So after George, it says, and it goes to the river, Rope in the Wind. And, the river was this beautiful thing that we cut in this room, and a very kind of odd for country music kind of feel, but the lyric was very country. And he goes, he wrote that with Victoria Shaw. And I'm going, I know who I wrote The River for. I mean, I stole every James Taylor line I could possibly come up, right? And here tonight to sing The River is James Taylor. And I'm gone. I mean, I can't believe this happening again. But you could see his hands, and he was shaking. He was nervous because I hear he's really terrified to play in front of audiences anyway. Even though when he gets out there, he's just butter. It's fabulous. But it's something he just never got away from, is that kind of terrified feeling. And he sang it beautifully and so raw. And then they talked about that summer. And I'm going, I'm not going to believe this, because that summer, that's Bob Seger, as much Bob Seger again, and Now Make Welcome from the Motor City. And man, he was already sweating when he came out, because he's a big guy and he's sweating. But man, he just hammered it. It was, I want to say, the best night of my career. I've been lucky enough to have 3 or 4 of those things going into the Opry family. It's one of them. Yeah. Playing the 100th anniversary of Cheyenne with Chris Ledoux was another one. But there's nothing bigger than that night for me.
When you did the first Texas Stadium show, I was there. And you said, and I will never forget this, I've carried this with me in my own career as it applies, say at the Grand Ole Opry, but you said if you can make that person at the tip top, that you can barely make out there's anybody there, they're so far up, feel like the person on that front row, amen, you have done your job.
Amen. That job is gratitude.
Because in that moment in time, they are the same two people as far as emotion is concerned.
100%. Well, let's think about it. What is easier? Being the front row guy or being the last row guy? It's a lot of work up there. It's a lot of work for them to keep their attention on you. And try to remember, at Texas Stadium, we wanted everybody focused. There were no video screens at Texas Stadium. You remember this? Mm. So, for the first time in my life, I looked thin to these people because I'm a speck down there, right?
You know what else I remember you said at the press conference? You said, because you were, I mean, you didn't have an ounce of body fat on you. And you said, when this is over, I'm going to eat enough to be nominated for Duo of the Year.
I didn't disappoint him.
I'll never forget that quote either.
Oh my gosh, what we were doing was we were flying over Texas Stadium. So those wires, even though by federal law they have to hold 10 times your weight, I was going to help them out all I could by showing up as thin as I possibly could be. And but that was fun, man. That was great. We got to do that thing 3 or 4 nights and get a special out of it. But there's the perfect example. There's no difference between Willie's Saloon and Texas Stadium. It's still all about those people walking out of there, hopefully with a connection with an artist.
One of the loudest crowds you told me once that you ever played in front of was when you surprised everybody and showed up and played the Opry at the Ryman.
Yeah, that's great.
This in recent years.
Yes.
And I was hosting that particular day. We couldn't hear a thing in there. You said later.
I'm glad you felt the same way.
You said to me, the band couldn't hear. I couldn't hear. At one point, you come over to the podium to me, and you're like,
"Can you hear it?"
I can't hear a thing. And they are not to be denied.
No.
Their Garth moment. I mean, that just came in waves for what seemed like 30 minutes.
It's fun. You were the guy that said, hey, and the great thing about the Opry is you never know who's going to show up here.
Yeah.
And the Ryman, I hadn't been in the Ryman. I was there for Harlan Howard's funeral because Miss Sherwood said, you're going with me. I'd never been in the Ryman, ever. Just scared to death to step a foot in there. and went for that. And then first time I ever played the Ryman was when we launched the Garth channel for Sirius. Fell in love so much with it because I'm not a pyramids or stars lining up guy, but there's help there. You call them ghosts, you can call them whatever you want. There's help at the Ryman. You're like, I never hit that chord ever, right? And it's so fun to play. So let's go back and do the Opry now at the Ryman for the first time. I think it's the only time we ever have. And when that crowd went off, a crowd will go off and you'll gear into it, but they just kept getting bigger. And you're like going, okay, don't talk between songs. Even cut Baton Rouge short, get into Friends in Low Places. Let's get all this stuff. And man, they just rode it hard, never sit down. And they just kept going. And finally you get to the dance and I look over and I can see Gant's fingers, but I can't hear. You can't hear nothing. They did not let up the whole time. Easiest gig when you don't have to remember any of the lyrics or anything because they've got you covered. I'm glad that there's a witness because when you try to explain to people, I'm the laziest guy on the planet. Going out and just starting a song and they finish it and I wait till they're done and start the next one, that's my life. That's a fun guy to get to be.
You recently said when Salt Lake and Lincoln and Nashville all set records for your stadium shows, you said, they are for me what I was for George Strait. I'm paraphrasing now. And you got emotional as you were saying it, that they would do this for me, that they would turn out in these kind of numbers.
I'm stunned. I can see it. You know, Billy Joel has this wonderful quote. He goes, I play for these people and I don't know why they show up. Exactly. Why do these people show up? And people go, why are you always so nervous? I said, because if you don't know why something happens, you don't know what's going to happen again, right? So with every day that goes by my life that I get to go out and play for people, and every moment that you look out and they're singing back to you what you got to write or got to help or pick or record, that's a miracle. I mean, a miracle. I don't want to over dramatize or whatever the word is. It's a freaking miracle. And I see it that way. So naturally, it just gets to me. Because there's very few people I would go through that for. I mean, when you talk about parking, you talk about traffic, you talk about people, you talk about restrooms, that's all the things that could possibly, you'd much rather be safer at home or happier at home. Mm-hmm. And they fight through that so they can set 300 yards up there and see you as are you kidding me? How and cool is that? No matter what the name is on this house, it's a house that worships music. No matter how futuristic music gets, Music Row is still always going to be the heart and soul of country music.
As we sit here in what was once Jack's Tracks, a building that goes back, I just realized this is the 50th anniversary of this building, 1971, when Jack takes it over, 50th anniversary of that moment. And then Alan. And then what happens in that transition when you take it over from Alan and the surprise that Tricia was involved in it? Take me through that as we finish up.
So Big Pal is kind of rounding out his career, right?
Big Pal. I love you calling him Big Pal.
So Alan's kind of, and his hearing is starting to leave him. And the great thing about Alan is he's the first guy to tell you, I don't trust my ears anymore, so I have to get out. Someone will sell the building, want to know, it's of course. The deal went down flawlessly. There was no negotiation, just here it is, done. Cowboy Jack Clement was Alan Reynolds' hero. He was. He took care of Alan and brought Alan to Nashville. Mm-hmm. Cowboy Jack Clement was a sweet, sweet man, but not my hero. I mean, he was before me. And every time that I'd been around Cowboy Jack, with no offense, he'd kind of been in his cups a little bit. So very different from Alan Reynolds. So for my 50th birthday, my wife gave me the present of approaching Alan Reynolds and said, hey, can we rename the studio Allentown? Now, we'd already owned it for 2 years. I didn't need his permission, but because what Cowboy Jack meant to him, He goes, "Pal, I'd be flattered, but it's not my answer to give you." And I had to go to Cowboy Jack. So sweet. Cowboy Jack came to the day. He came here the day that we turned it over to Alan Reynolds, to Allentown, and stood up, applauded. Emmy was here. Everybody that loved Alan, Kathy, they were all here. So sweet. Great day. But here's the crazy thing. No matter what the name is on this house, it's a house that stands in, is reverence a good word? It's a house that worships music, worships its creators, its players. All the good stuff happens in this house. And even though Cowboy Jack is gone, Alan Reynolds isn't here every day, this house still carries that same harbor and protection in it. It doesn't got anything to do with me, but like the Ryman, I think there's something about this building that it's funny because you can't come to Nashville as a fan or a tourist without coming to see this building. They're all out there every day passing by and they wave, and it's great because no matter how futuristic music gets, Music Row is still always going to be the heart and soul of country music.
It's the home of Live in Studio G. It's also home to every single thing you've recorded, I think, except for Chris Gaines, right?
Yeah, the Gaines was done at the Beanstalk out in Franklin, just because you had to get away from it because it was a totally different music. But everything we've done here, and if people still this day, if they go, "Hey, you want to record together?" Say, "Yeah, come to Allentown. We'll do it." And it's cool because nobody ever has been in here. Very few people get to come in here or have been here. They're all invited. There's just very few people have been in here. But Drive, you're standing in the place where I'm looking across at Trisha Yearwood's face In Another's Eyes. You're standing at the place where I'm sitting there looking right at George Jones when he sings Beer Run. He'd just come out of the accident. His throat was real scratchy, and he was really laboring hard because they had stuck that tube down his throat. And gave him a week to kind of repair, feel better, and the track was unbelievable. But to know that those guys are here, to know that the group Kiss is in here, right? Because they're here for the Kiss My Ass tribute. And for some reason, they've come found a country guy that was a fan of theirs when he was a teenager and played in here. So a lot of great things have happened in here. I'm lucky enough to just be one of parts of the things that's happening here.
I'm Bill Cody. Bill Cody presents Garth Brooks. Thank you for presenting Allentown. It is history to us. And thank you for making the world a better place, pal. Big pal.
It has never mattered when I've seen you from day one to now. You always treat me like I'm somebody special. I absolutely love you, adore you. Thanks, pal. Appreciate it.
If it rides, glides, floats or flies, or moves otherwise, human powered or motorized, combustion or electrified, modified, specialized, one of a kind, customized, wheels, wings, jets or slides, as long as it rides, sounds like something we want to see, right here on Big Kenny's Crank It Up Garage TV. Crank it up! Woo! We're ready to dance with the disco bot. Prepare to crank it up! Yeah! Woo! Why do I have that immense feeling of a need to dance?
Well, we got the auto disco dance bot.
There you go.
Wow.
Look at that. Wow. It's huge.
Lots of questions.
Yeah,
it doesn't really fit this out.
It's a whole new definition of big.
20 foot tall.
20 foot tall.
In this configuration, it lowers and the head goes back and it actually kind of transforms. Taking the hot rod world and the art world and sort of like combining the two is where this came out of. It's got a steel frame that's attached to a 1985 40 Econoline chassis.
Wow, and you built all of this?
Yeah, built it all.
Man.
Built it all from scratch with no drawings. Just started.
Yeah, and the head just kind of moves with the wind like a wind vane?
Yeah, just kind of on its own.
Yeah. When in doubt, put it on wheels. That seems to work in our world. And I'm just kind of seeing it out there at Burning Man. You're just kind of rolling around. Anybody wants to hop on, they hop
Anyone
on.
hops
You
on
just ride them from one end of the playa to the other.
That's right.
Yeah. How awesome. I like big bots, and I cannot lie.
When your debut single goes #1 on the Billboard Country Singles Chart, and your debut album sells 2 million copies, chances are pretty good you'll have a future in the industry. Such was the case for Patricia Lynn Yearwood, or as we all know her through her husband, Ms. Yearwood. When She's in Love with a Boy came out in 1991, it would launch one of the most prolific careers in country music history. Follow-up hits like Walk Away Joe, the song Remembers When, X's and O's, and Believe Me Baby I Lied would help propel Trisha into a career that's included a New York Times bestseller, a Daytime Emmy Award for her Food Network series, Trisha's Southern Kitchen. Along the way, she's collected multiple Grammy, CMA, ACM, and AMA awards. She even performed at the closing ceremony of the 1996 Summer Olympics